Welcome to LifeTalk with Mariette. I am Mariette. This show is about the life lessons that shape us, what I've learned, what I'm still learning, and how we grow through challenge, awareness, and purpose. I will share personal insights to motivate and inspire you, and sometimes invite guests who do the same. At its heart, LifeTalk is about real stories, real growth, and meaningful connection. This is LifeTalk with Mariette. Motivational, inspirational, full of heart. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to Life Talk with Mariette. I'm your host, Mariette Kammer. Welcome to today's show, If I Could Start Over at 5 years old. We all have said at some point, if I could only know then, if I only knew then what I know now. Well, today we're turning the clock back, not to ease or erase anything, but to look at life through the eyes of our 5-year-old selves, armed with the wisdom we've earned. So I have Robert, Jean, and myself here to share what life has taught us and maybe what we would do differently if we had the chance to begin again, with clearer eyes, stronger hearts, and maybe a little more patient. And yes, my friends are here. Robert Adamo. Good evening, Robert.
Thank you for having me, Mariette.
Thank you for being here. And Jean Thompson. Jean, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mariette. Good evening to you.
Good evening. And I'm Mariette Kammer. A little bit about myself. I'm a radio and TV broadcaster, a podcaster, and entrepreneur. And let's just start. And I will do the lead here tonight with the intro. I was 5 years old in 1956. I had short, curly, dark brown hair, loved playing outside, and didn't understand a word of English yet. And I loved playing in the mud because I had no toys. So manufacturing mud, anything made into mud, I did it. So I loved it. I was very curious, and I remembered asking a million questions. But I also carried a quiet fear of doing something wrong all the time. That had something to do with the temperature in my home and, of course, my parents, how I was raised. So that's just a very short version of it when I was 5 years old, but I was a big mud player, and I was proud of it. Nobody could make mud pies like I did. So over to Jean.
Yes. For introduction for me as a 5-year-old, and let's see, at 5 years old, let's see, 54, that was 1959, living in New Jersey, right there on the coast in a little town called Morganville, very like mysterious town. And it was a lot of fun. We lived, my father he brought the family from Cottondale, Florida, to New Jersey, and he kind of transferred the same type of life he had there in Florida, kind of to New Jersey. He moved right back to the woods there, and so I loved it. I loved going in the woods and just enjoying myself, exploring and picking wild berries and wild apples, wild cherries. They had a lot of fruit and everything there. And so as a 5-year-old boy, I was very adventurous, very athletic. I climbed trees and made slingshots and all kinds of things like that. And I thought a lot about my future. And with that, I think I kind of, as a 5-year-old, I tried to guide myself to where, even as a 5-year-old, where I would want to be in life with all of the mishaps that would happen and come in between those times. So that's kind of where I was at 5.
Really? I mean, who at 5 years old thinks about what they want to do in life? That's incredible.
A 5-year-old with a lot of imagination.
Oh my God. Were you a shy little boy? Were you shy?
You know what? Yes and no. Around people that I knew, I was familiar with, No, but if I didn't know you or if it was a new surrounding, a new situation, very shy, very reserved until I can, um, because of things that happened. I think we went over that before on a previous show. I was very cautious and I would always take stock of everything that was around me, even at that young age, because, being the age I am, I grew up really fast. Like I'll just not getting off subject. But
Hmm.
nowadays, you'll take a 19-year-old and he's still like a 10-year-old. When
Mhm.
I was when I was 5 to 10 years old, I was more like a 15 or 17-year-old mentally, because in that time you had to kind of be like that in
Mhm.
order to prosper and survive. Where nowadays, the kids that are the young men that are more childish, they have all these video games and all this activities where during my time, your only activity was your brain. You had to
Mhm.
use your mind to function, to be creative, to make good resources of your time for entertainment.
Mhm.
So it was a lot different then. So yes, at 5, I had a very inventive, very how would you say, like inventive mind.
Hmm.
So we would make things, slingshots, rings. We made rings out of. We would take acorns from the trees there in New Jersey, and we actually made rings out of them that you could whistle. Sound just like a real
Mhm.
whistle.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, it did. It was
Yeah,
really good. And
I love
so
it.
yeah, at 5, I did do that, and I kind of wanted to shape my life to where I wanted to be. And a lot of it had to do with poverty. I didn't want
Mhm.
to be impoverished when I got older. So I was thinking to myself, what am I going to do so I don't have to um, be in this condition? Because I don't know if I told you guys there where I was, and I'm going to stop in a second.
Mhm.
In New Jersey, where my father lived, because where he was, sometimes you come from your conditions and you bring. Okay, the old saying goes, you can take the boy out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the boy.
Mhm. Right.
And where my father lived, they used outhouses and all that kind of stuff. So when he brought us there, we had the same thing, and I hated that. I,
Mhm.
I hated it because we had these things they called slop jars where you had to go to the bathroom in these pots that you had in your house and all this kind of thing. I'm
Yeah.
serious. And I hated it. We had to shovel coal. And I'm like, what are we living in 1895 or
1800s.
1850?
I'm
Right.
sorry, I'm
You
laughing.
know?
It's the
No,
way you explain it. I'm sorry, it's not funny, but just
no.
talk about it.
Listen, it was funny to me too, but
Yeah.
but my whole thinking was, I have to escape out of this. I'm not going to grow up and be in this condition. But that's a 5-year-old's thinking. So I
Yeah,
did
yeah, yeah.
kind of think ahead. But anyway, go ahead, Robert. I'm
And
talking too
and
much.
and, and Robert,
It's okay.
Robert, before you start, I just want to say one thing. My aunts that lived out in the country, they had the
Hmm.
same
Really?
the same living situation.
Oh
The
my.
the houses were still very, very old. They had the cows and the pigs living in part of the house. Very,
Yes,
very interesting.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm.
And they also had the outhouse. So that was
Yeah,
just the way that's the way it was at that time.
way it
That's
was.
when I was a little girl, I was 5 years old, 5, 6 years old when I was young. And that's what I saw. And of course, the people that lived in town, they had modern apartments or more modern homes, with a
Mhm.
running toilet and water and electricity and everything. But no, the people who lived on the farm, they identical. They had
Mhm.
Mhm.
coal stoves and so forth. So, but I wasn't laughing at you. I was just laughing the way you explained it. I experienced it too. Whenever we visit, and they were the greatest people. I was the happiest
Absolutely.
when
And
I
you
visited
know what?
there.
And same thing here. Even though I went through that as a 5-year-old, I was so happy.
Yeah,
I was happy. So that tells you you don't have to always be in some great kind of condition to have joy and happiness.
that's
Anyway,
right.
Mhm.
So,
moving on.
Robert, now learning. What age are you, Robert?
Well, I mean, I could tell how what my life was like at 5. It's just, I was in kindergarten, and much like I do today, I went out of my way to try to help people and do the right thing. But when you're five, you really don't have the same um, abilities that you do as an adult. So in my 5-year-old world, helping out people was collecting my friends' money so that I could sneak out and go to the Baskin Robbins ice cream store down the block, which
Yeah.
of course got me in a lot of trouble when I came back with a bunch of ice cream for people.
Mhm.
um, and then, I would also, as a 5-year-old, after school, you're always waiting for your parents to pick you up. And so when the school would let out, I would go out front, and as parents came to the front gate, I would open the gate as a polite young 5-year-old does. But there was only one problem. Of course, I was on the outside of the school ground, so I would get in trouble for being outside near the parking lot where it's dangerous and everything, although I'm just standing right there at the gate. But so in my attempts to be kind and generous and thinking of other people, I got in trouble a lot, but it didn't change me. I just kept helping people or being nice to people, even if I got in trouble for it.
Well,
So
give us an
that's,
example. What was nice doing something nice for kids, for your peers? What did that look like? Give us an example, please.
well, like I said, kids like ice cream. So I would tell the kids, hey, tomorrow bring 50 cents or $1. I'm going to go sneak out and go to the ice cream store down the block and bring everybody back ice cream.
Yeah, but you got ice cream for yourself too, right?
Well, obviously, but
Yeah. So in other words, was there a business mind behind it already? That's what I'm asking.
I wasn't making money off it. No, I wasn't profiting off it. I was just getting my friends and myself ice cream. I wasn't going to be selfish though and just sneak out and get myself ice cream.
No, no, I'm just asking it because it could be,
Right.
one way or the other. I don't know. I don't know
Well, it
what you
wasn't
were
until
like.
third grade that I started entrepreneurial. At
That's what.
five, at five, I wasn't looking to make a profit. I was just helping my friends out. So if they wanted ice cream, I was the one willing to take the risk of basically sneaking out of kindergarten school. And it was only about 100 yards down the block.
Yeah.
So it was basically less than the length of a football field. It was like two buildings away.
But still, that made you the big cheese, Robert, right? Because that
Well,
you took
it
the
got
risk.
me points for the kids, not so much
Yes.
from the
Yeah, yeah,
principal
yeah.
and the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
school who
Yeah, yeah.
was like, "How is this kid circumventing our security and getting out?" One, and luckily back then we didn't have an issue in the sense that we do today, where kid walking along the street might not make it to the end of the block because some crazy person kidnaps them or something. We didn't have that so much in the 70s, but it was still, of course, the school was responsible for me. And here I am, just kind of running around town, as they would say, even though it was only two doors away.
hmm No, I can see
But,
that you took the
mhm,
risk because it's important to be seen and to be a leader. And of course, the ice cream was a perfect thing. It was
exactly.
perfect. It was
Right.
perfect for you.
Hmm.
So okay, so and what made you happy, Robert, while you were still what made you happy as a kid?
At 5, um, apparently getting ice cream for my friends, but um, it's I can't really say, I mean, I played a lot of games with my grandparents. We lived with my grandparents at the time, and so we'd play games and, go places or whatnot. We were fairly new to Southern California. So I was born in New York and then moved to California. And back and forth each summer. I go see my dad in West Virginia, and then come back for the school year with my mom. And so it's you know, it was a lot of different things going on, but basically just helping people, even at that young age, and that's what I still do today, just in different ways. But I would say, just like Gene, he kind of already had certain things ingrained even at 5 that he looks back and sees I see the same thing. I doubt you're still making mud pies, Marietta, but I'm sure your cooking is very good and everything. But I think we all kind of had our path was already kind of carved out, so to say.
Mm.
And as I took care of kids in my adult years, friends of kids of my friends, my family, my nieces, my nephews, I think even at that age, 5, 6, 7, you could kind of tell what kind of person that kid is going to grow up to be. Either if they're very angry all the time and trouble kid, they know they're going to be trouble. If they're happy and helping people, so I think to a degree we are kind of set in our ways unless something drastically throws us off track one way or another along that path, like what happened to me at 10 years old when I had my illness. I would say that was a major life event that probably it did change and influence the rest of my life, as opposed to if I never had my illness at that age or any age, I think I'd be a different person. So,
Right.
but
We'll get to that in a
right,
bit as well because I know you want
okay.
to talk about that. Um, what made me happy before I'm going to ask Jean, um, playing with mud, making mud, and sitting out in the rain, but shielded, by an overhang,
Hmm.
and the rain started. It was drizzling, and I was out there and I enjoyed the rain and also the way everything smelled, the grass and just the air when it was just slightly drizzling. And sometimes it was pouring, and I would be under that. We had an overhang there, and I would sit under it, and I felt very secure. And I was, I just felt really at home within myself, sitting out in the rain but not getting wet, but still
Hmm.
Mm.
sitting outside. I love that very much in making my mud pies. Jean, how
Hmm.
about you? What made
Mm.
you happy?
What made me happy was being out of the house. And the reason why is I know we all come from diverse backgrounds, all three of us. In my case, and I'm not going to go into the whole thing deeply, but I hated being in the house because there was always tension in the house. With my father, he was kind of like a tyrant to me as a 5 year old. Because as a 5 year old, I didn't really understand what was going on. So when you see a person being mean at 5, you just think that's a mean monster, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So that was kind of but I still loved him. Don't get me wrong.
Hmm.
I still loved him, but I looked at him as this monster type figure. And it was always tension and chaos in the house. But the minute I went outside, I felt free, freedom to do
Mm-hmm.
what I want. And Robert was right back then. And I remember I was 5 years old. You could go out 5 and walk around. My mother didn't even care. I could go out and walk all over the little town I lived in, and it
Hmm.
was okay. But and it was weirdos, but not like compared to 100% like weirdos. We had maybe 1% then. So
Hmm.
it was very far. So now you can't even let your kid walk at the playground 10 steps from you, or you hear a parent screaming, "Ah, where's
Hmm.
that?" You
Hmm.
know. But so one of the main thing that made me happy at 5 was just being out of the house and the woods. I'll go back to that. The woods were my thing. I loved the woods because it was freedom. Every step I took, there was something new. It was so many things to discover, and having fun. And one other thing is pulling out the pots and beating on them. I love playing drums. I would make drums out of
Mhm.
anything. I would beat on
Mhm.
anything. And that just brought me so much joy. Or just to hear music. I would any type of music, I would just stand in the woods and I would just listen to the birds and the sounds of
Mhm.
the insects, and I just loved it. You ever did that? Just listen to
Mhm.
the sounds of the earth, the earth
Mhm.
itself. Forget cars and
Yeah.
anything natural man makes. Just the natural sounds of the earth are just so soothing and
Mhm.
beautiful. And all of that tension I had, it would take all that away
Yeah.
until I had to go home. But those are the things that made me happy. Music, trying to play music. You know, another thing that made me very happy, my mother. My
Oh,
mother made me very happy. She really did. She gave me so much attention that I didn't get in other ways. And she'd always hug me and kiss me and tell me. And she had we it was 10 kids, but she
Wow.
found a way to make time for me. So those are the basic things. The freedom of being on my own outside at that age and discovering nature and music. And, and other things little boys do. You want to ride a bike and all that kind of stuff. Of course, you're too young, so you dream about riding riding a bike in the future. But
hmm
at that time, at 5, it was being outside, having that freedom to because that freedom helped my mind to develop. It helped me to be creative, just being it. Because I notice now, I'll make a music track, and I'll hear something that I heard as my childhood, like the sound of a brush, and I'll try to create
Mhm.
that through the instrument, but I'll capture it. But that was something that was placed in me as a young child.
Mhm.
Um, so all of that follows you, into your adulthood. So anyway, I'm not going to, babble on, but those are the 3 main things that made me happy as a 5-year old.
Wow. I just wanted to say and add what made me also very happy early in the morning when the sun is coming up. In other words, it's between 7 and 11. And when you hear an airplane flying by, there's a
Really?
certain sound. Also
Hmm.
at night, when it gets a little later in the evening, from 7 o'clock at night, between 7 and 11, when airplanes fly. Of course, it's dark already, and just the sound, the smell of the night, same with the smell in the morning.
Hmm.
Just and it was getting ready to be a hot day. I remember that in the summertime. So I first of all, I love all the seasons, but I'm speaking of the summertime now, and there's a
Yeah.
certain sound that you hear a motor of a small plane. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about a 747 going by. I'm talking about a small plane.
Hmm.
And just the way the motor sounds and just the sound in the morning and at night of a plane flying by. And the sound is different from the morning to night. It's different, the way I perceive it. So,
Mhm.
and what confused or scared me, angry adults scared the hell out of me. And of course, the tension in my house.
Yes.
That scared the hell out of me too. So
Mhm.
anyway, Robert, you're on. What we already know what made you happy, what confused or what scared you.
Um, I guess for me, um, not much I would say at that age really confused or scared me because at that time my parents were divorced. So unlike both of you who had the mother and father who the father was strict to this, I only had the mother around and she could be strict at times, but she had to keep a balance as well because she was only one parent. So whereas if you have two parents, one could be, good cop, bad cop, and so one can keep them in line, and the other one can brush away the tears. But when you only have one parent, it's a little bit more challenging, I think. And plus, she worked a lot, so I was either I'm not at 5 home alone, but had a babysitter or would stay after school till 5, 6 o'clock at night. And so, really, I would say if there was ever a thing of being scared, it was fear of not being getting picked up. Like if something happened to my mom during the day, and oftentimes I was the last kid standing, so to say, at the playground. And so there, as it got closer and closer to dark, it would be like, oh, mom must be stuck in traffic or this, that, the other. But of course, she always showed up. But there was, that if there was anything that was scary for me at that age, that was probably it.
Wow. Okay. Now, our first memory of independence or worry, I'd like to answer that. First of all, I want to address worry. I constantly felt that I did something wrong, whether I was at home or in school,
Mhm.
constantly. And I believe that comes from my mother because my mother did a lot of worrying and she had a lot of fear inside of her. All the time,
Mm,
she had a fear of me falling down the cellar steps. She
mm,
constantly gave me a pre-warning. Walk slow, do this, do that, eat slow. Don't sit there because you get this dirty. It was a constant um, addressing me with her fear.
mm,
I thought at the time it was care, and probably in her eyes it was care. But also, let's see, with animals, we would be in downtown, and she would see a dog and its owner coming toward us, and she would change sidewalks, and she would
mhm,
grab my hand and hold my hand. I could feel her fear. And all my life, I had fear of animals. We never had an animal at home. I grew up with no cat and dog. I was afraid of dogs until much
mhm,
later in life, I addressed that situation. So my daughter got a little dog, the tiny little dachshund dabble. Such a tiny little thing. It's like a size a little bigger than a teddy bear. So how could I be afraid of that little thing? And
yeah.
but she really transferred her fears onto me. And my first memory of independence was when we skipped Sunday church. We were
Uh-oh.
supposed to go to church on Sundays, and um, we always went downtown. We would go to this one cafe and play the jukebox and drink Coca-Cola, and then we just made sure we got home in time, because
Mhm,
they were having a big lunch, and of course the church was out, so we had to time it just properly so that nobody would know. And oh, I didn't see you in church. Oh, why we were standing in the back. Oh, okay. That
mhm,
worked for a while. We just had to be back in time. Church was an hour in length, so we couldn't show up a half an hour late. We can't do that because I had to go home, straight home, and not be
mhm,
tardy about that. So, but no, we felt very independent going to a cafe on Sunday and talking to
mhm,
the boys and playing jukebox. Yeah,
mhm.
that was nice. How about you, Jean?
Um, what was the question again? I got so wrapped up in what you and
Your
Robert was
memory.
saying. I'm like
Yeah.
sitting here listening.
What's your memory of really feeling independent? Um,
Inde Feeling independent. Huh. At 5 years old.
yeah, because you
Um,
said as soon as you left your house, when you left the house, you felt free.
oh yeah. Oh,
That's what
absolutely.
I felt too. I didn't want to go to church like they made me. My mother made me do it every Sunday.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And
Yeah.
I felt free because we decided we're not going to church. We're going downtown to this little cafe. That was more fun than the church.
Mhm.
Forgive me, all churchgoers, whoever is listening now. I'm sorry, but that's how I was thinking at the time. Not at 5, but we were about 8 or 9,
Mary,
something like that. Yeah, not at
you
5.
bet. Mhm. Uh, let's see. I think for me, independence started because I always felt, like I said, I had to be in the house and I always felt trapped in there. I could never feel relaxed or comfortable. My nerves were always on edge because I never knew when the next fight or argument was going to break out that would turn violent. So I felt like a prisoner in my own body, in my own house. And I don't think adults really pay attention to what they. I think I think we're very selfish with our ways of thinking and how we manage our time around our children, or anyone, or any child, because the child is picking up on all of that, and they're learning, and sometimes things get ingrained in you. So I think when I started elementary school, when I was gone all day and able to I meet new friends and color and paint and play kickball and all of these other things, it just made me feel independent because I wasn't around my brothers, wasn't around my sisters. I was there by myself in classroom with my own friends, and I had a sense of independence there
Hmm.
with that. Um, of course, that was when I was 5 years old. But I just
Yeah.
wanted to say one thing: how
Hmm.
uh, how as a child I was looking. This is, I don't know if it's an allegory or whatever, how I'm going to say it, but I remember seeing a picture of a tree, and there was a bicycle that someone left leaning against this tree somewhere in the woods, and it had stayed there for years. They put it there against this little small tree when it was a baby tree, and the tree grew around it grew around the tree, so the tree was the bicycle was embedded into the tree. Like
Mm,
half of the bicycle, the tree grew around it. And I
mhm,
said to myself, that is so remarkable. And that's how we are as human beings. You can go through something as a 5 year old, that little branch, that little tree that's in the ground, and if something is has leaned against you in life, if you don't deal with it and get rid of it, you got your life is going to grow around it, and it's still going to be in you. Because remember, trees, they look at least this is what I was taught in school, which I think is true. When you cut down a tree, when you look at the rings, you can see the years of the tree,
Hmm.
mhm,
and in the center of that tree, you can still see that first ring, which means that baby tree is still in there. Just like with us, that baby child, that little 5 year old is still inside. But if
Hmm.
there's been something that leaned up against me and I'm holding on to it, like that bicycle, and the poor tree looked like it was in so much pain. I don't know
mm,
if a tree can feel pain, but I feel like they can. But it looked like
mhm,
it was hurting so bad with this bicycle. Just it was like having something stuck in your tooth or something, or a
mhm,
big splinter in your hand. It was nothing the tree could do about it. But if you don't deal with those things and your life grows around it, it's going to be awfully painful for you. So I'm just saying, if you anyone out there listening, if you have something in your life, deal with it as soon as possible. Think it out and deal with it and move on from it, because if you don't, it's going to cause problems in you mentally, physically, health wise. All those things can work against you. So
Hmm.
anyway, that was my thing. I was happiest when I felt the most freedom when I got out of the house and was able to stay away from there, so I didn't have to deal with all of that, whatever was going there that had nothing to do with me at all in life.
Hmm. I love trees. When I was little, I loved trees, and especially willow trees because they were in the park, hanging
Oh
right over
yeah,
the little pond with the swans on
yeah.
it. And the willow trees would give it a lot of shade, especially when it was really, really hot. And
Mhm.
again, I loved the air sitting under those willow trees when it was hot as anything. And just the feel of the cold, damp air sitting on the bench right in front of the pond under the willow trees.
mhm,
Absolutely, those moments made me very, very happy. I love trees. Here where I live, we have a big piece of property with all mature trees. And wherever you do a 360, all trees. And I
Mhm.
touch trees. I like touching the trees, and I
Me
like
too.
smelling trees. And I actually have smelled trees. I don't care well, first of all, nobody sees me anyway, but I love
Yeah.
smelling trees and I love the way it smells. So
Yes.
when I was little, and even today, there's certain times of the day when the air, pay attention to it sometimes, what's in the air and how the air shifts in the smell. And I have a nose like a canine. I smell
Mhm.
everything, and I just love it. It's a topic by itself. So I want to get back to Robert.
mhm.
Um, if you could tell your 5 year old, let's say, or 7 year old, something they needed to know, what would it be?
Um, what?
Let's say, for instance,
What?
um,
Yeah,
children
what
always
is?
misunderstand because we always think it's our fault. If the adults argue or they look at you a certain way, we think it's our fault. Even they're just looking, they may be thinking about something totally different. And the way a person looks at you, it could be a stranger, or it could be the aunt or uncle or the mother or father. They could be in their thoughts, in deep thoughts.
Right.
So, and right away, because they don't have a happy face, at least that's how it was with me, I think something is wrong. Okay, it's my fault again. I tell you
Well, yeah.
how I got out of this whole thing as a child. It lasted till mid into my adult life. So that's where I'm going with it, Robert.
Okay. Well, in my when I was in California with my mom, I was an only child. So I pretty much, if the a lamp broke, it was my fault. If something fell off the shelf, it was my fault. So
Mhm.
there was no getting around or trying to blame somebody else or anything. And then as we got older, as I got older, my father did remarry and have other kids, but I was the oldest, so it was still my fault. Even if my younger sister broke something, it was still my fault. I should have kept her from breaking it. And then on the West Coast, my mom has was engaged with the gentleman for like 10 years, and he had two daughters who were older than me just by a year. One was like by 1 year and the other by like 2 years. And then a son who was like 1 year, 2 years younger than me. So once again, the girls were perfect. If there was anything that went wrong or happened, the boys must have done it. And then, of course, it was Robert, why did you let Russell do that? And so didn't matter if I was the only child, the oldest child, or the middle child. I still pretty much got blamed for everything all the time. So that later, in life, when I was working at a vitamin company, the owner, he used to pick on everybody, but he would still try to pick on me or blame me for everything. But I guess after years of being blamed for everything, I just let it would just roll off my back because I knew if I didn't do it, I knew, you know, there's no convincing that person and changing their mind. But I know in my heart of hearts, I did the right thing or didn't do the wrong thing, and they'll figure it out. But I've always, in a sense, been the scapegoat or the person to blame. And at this point, it's like, fine, whatever. How can we fix it or change it or do it different? But if I'm to blame for something, that's just, to me, it's more their problem than my problem. But I still have to be the one to fix the problem. But that's just how life is.
That's an awful way. That's awful. That's absolutely awful.
Oh,
Especially when you didn't do it and you just automatically, it was on automatic pilot.
yeah,
Well, you
didn't
did.
matter. Could have
That's
been an
awful.
earthquake and things
Yeah,
fell
that's
down,
awful.
but nobody felt the earthquake, but I still got blamed. Well, why were you jumping on the bed? Why did you do this? The stories go on, but I
Yeah, yeah,
pretty
yeah.
much got blamed for everything.
Well, let's go to the first time life disappointed you, and we're talking about um, feeling invisible. I would say with me, um, sibling rivalry that didn't apply to me. My sister was already out of the house. School humiliation, I would say, school humiliation and feeling invisible. Um, those two items, I would say, for a first time life disappointed me. How about you, Jean?
You know, I hate to keep going back over the same thing. I'm trying to find something different. But you kind of know what it was. I just you know what? I'm going to say this. Life tried to disappoint me from the beginning,
Hmm.
as far as I could remember, but I would never let it overwhelm me. It seemed like everything was going wrong, everything was bad, everything in the house, where we lived, how we lived, and all. But I'd always try to find a way to keep myself having joy and being happy. But
Hmm.
that's a difficult one because it just seems like I started being disappointed from the beginning, but had to overcome it just to have some type of joy of happiness because I couldn't walk around as a kid and just be depressed. A 5 year old depressed, 6 year old saying, no, I couldn't do that. So I can explain it if you want me to. I can go into it again, but
I like to add to that because it just triggered something. There was no joy allowed in our house.
okay.
Uh, no joy. My father didn't like music, anything that would stimulate him emotionally. And you could really see that Christmas time when they had the television on, maybe the radio, maybe, and it had some choir music. And the Vienna choir boys were big when I grew up at that
Yeah.
time. And, the Christmas music in general. Candles weren't allowed in my house. He would say, "Oh, they stink. They stink up the
Oh.
room." And at that time, we had real candles on the Christmas tree. And I
Mhm.
loved the way the real Christmas tree, the smell of the real Christmas tree, and the burning candles. So they didn't burn very long because it all had something to do him getting emotional. My mother got emotional all the time, and my father would make fun of her. So she started laughing again as soon as he always had this act that he did. And it worked
Mhm.
with her because he couldn't see her, he couldn't watch her being emotional and really tearing and really crying.
Mhm.
And there was never joy in my house. I was
Mm.
such a joyful child. And it was almost like you take a bonsai tree and you cut the roots.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they did, what my father did, because he
Mm.
didn't allow joy. And
Mm.
whenever I showed joy or excitement, um, he would say, "Oh, you're too fat for that," or "You can't do this," or whatever.
Mhm. Mm.
That's how I grew up without joy.
Mhm.
And this house was a prison. It was
Mhm.
So there was no here touching the radio and listening to music. No, no, those were his That was his equipment. Same with the TV.
Mhm.
At that time, we only had one or two channels. So
Mhm.
when he was working outside, they were working out. So you couldn't be sitting inside watching TV. That's a no-no. He found something for you to do, to sweep the cellar or to organize something in the
Mhm.
cellar. He would make sure. So
Wow.
joy is
Amazing.
so important, and it took me over 25 years to get that joy back, to let that joy grow back into my heart. That
Mm.
is the biggest thing. That is such a necessity, such a
Mm.
foundation stone and that you overcame that. That's incredible too.
Mm.
That's incredible. So today, nobody takes my joy. Nobody. Because that little kid you can excite that little girl, with very little. She can be happy about a joke or see situations that she finds funny, and all of a sudden, everything lights up inside. I just love that, you know? And here
Mhm.
you have a person that is the way they are, and we're under their rules and their thumb, and look what they're doing to us. But
Mm.
we were able to turn it around as soon as you removed yourself. I removed
Yes.
myself from that
Yeah.
environment because it's
Mm.
toxic, it's death. It's death all
Mhm.
the way. This
Mm.
kind of crap. So
Mhm.
Robert, I got to ask you something. What
Mhm.
childhood didn't prepare us for? Looking back now, what do you feel childhood did not prepare us that we needed for the adulthood? What do you think?
Well, that for me, unfortunately, my illness, I feel prepared me for a lot. Just like Gene, when you have adverse situations happen to you, you tend to grow up quickly. So at 10 years old, when I was in UCLA and sick for 11 and a half months, I pretty much had to grow up pretty quickly. There was no more playgrounds and having fun. It was fighting for my life and also having to um, look at the things from a different perspective than pretty much any other 10-year-old on the planet at the time. And I feel that that shaped me in different ways. But again, if anything, it just helped me be more courageous later in life and give me more courage. Because once you go through a situation like that, and then after I was released from the hospital, once my skin healed, I still had to learn how to walk again, which took 2 years.
Mm.
And at 11, 12 years old, going to physical therapy 5 days a week and all that kind of stuff. It was tough, but then when I was 15, it was like if something happened, it was like, yeah, whatever it was, it wasn't as bad as I had it 5 years ago. So just shut up and figure it out and move on. At least you're walking and at least you have all your skin back and at least you didn't die, you know.
Mm.
So um
Absolutely.
pretty much, I, I, I guess fortunately and unfortunately, my life gave prepared me well for adulthood at the ripe age of 10 years old. So I
Okay.
can't say that there was anything it didn't prepare me for as much as it did prepare me for a lot of things.
Okay. So my next question is, and I'll answer that. What would 5-year-old you, meaning me, think of the person you're now? Well, I'm looking at my notes. That 5-year-old would say, I admire you. I trust you completely. I believe you are here to protect me, and I feel safe with you. That's what my 5-year-old would say. I love you. That's very, very important that you express that. Wherever you go, I want to go to. And also, I'm watching everything you do, not just listening to what you say. So that's what my 5-year-old trusts me, she likes me, and she loves me. And that took work. That took work over a lifetime to make my inner child happy again. He was a very angry child. When you have certain situations in life, certain way where we grew up, you have a love-hate relationship that you encountered, and then you have that inside of you, and that really transforms over to your relationships and people that you
Yes.
meet. And so I think I did a good job because I can tell myself I love you, and that's important. And that little girl can push mountains, can motivate people, and I just love her. I really do. And she's very powerful. That's where our power is. Our little boy, our little girl inside of us. That's where the power
Mhm.
lies. How about you, Gene?
Yes.
What would you
Um,
tell your 5-year-old? No, what would the 5-year-old tell you?
what would the 5-year-old tell me?
Yes.
The 5-year-old would tell me, "Don't worry, it's going to be okay. Um, things are going to happen, but you're going to make it through it. You're going to grow old. You're going to live. You're going to have a family. You're going to reach the goals that you want to reach. The things that I feel in my heart as a 5-year-old that I want to accomplish. I think you have, if you haven't reached them, you've made a good attempt and you're almost there. Keep going. You're going to get there eventually." And Uh, just be happy and never let go of happiness as long as you live. Never let go of joy and always love people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my 5 year old self would just tell me it's gonna be all right. The little me that's still inside of me right now, because I can feel him. He's still there. He's still down. He's still there, and he helps me creatively. And a lot of times, and getting off subject a little bit, a lot of times I do revert back to my younger self to because you got to have that. I can't feel like I'm older, I'm getting old or anything like that. I have to keep who I am as that child because that child is helping me right now. I don't know
Yes.
if that makes sense to your
Yes.
listeners. That
Yes.
little boy is still helping me right now to be who I am. I have to
Yes.
revert and go back to him sometimes. So he would basically tell me, don't worry, don't trip out. It's going to be okay. You're going to be fine. I made it. I'm 5 years old. So where you are, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay at 15. You're going to have trouble there. You're going
Mm-hmm.
to be okay at 18. You might make some mistakes, but you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay when you get your first grandchild. Things are going to happen, but you're going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about it.
Very lovely. How about you, Robert? Thank you, Jean. Very, very lovely.
Mhm.
I think a lot of the similar things, and mainly the one philosophy that I have had for most of my life since reflecting back on all the challenges that I did have is even though they were sometimes literally staring death in the face or dying and coming back or whatever the case may be, am where I'm where I'm at, and that's where I'm supposed to be, even if it doesn't necessarily make sense or be where I want to be. Like right now, I probably would rather be on a beach in Hawaii than the mountains of Connecticut. But I'm in the mountains of Connecticut for a reason. I'm helping
Yeah.
somebody here, or something's gonna cross my path. And this happened probably about a year ago. Is one day I usually work late through the night, so I usually don't get up much before 11. But this one day I woke up at 9:15 for no reason whatsoever, and I was compelled to take the garbage not only out of the house but all the way downstairs into the garbage can again for no reason, because I usually only do that when I'm going out already because I'm on the third floor. But I listened to my gut and I did what I was supposed to, what my gut told me to do, even though it made no sense to my normal self. And even after throwing the garbage away, I actually just stood there in the driveway for about 10, 15 seconds, which again, normally you throw the garbage away, you turn around and you go back upstairs. But something compelled me to stay there. And as I was standing there, the neighbor from the next door neighbor came home and drove into the parking lot. And I had noticed her hood was ajar and was open. And so I debated for a minute, but I said, I can't let this lady drive without knowing that her hood is open. And people just don't pay attention to these things sometimes. And if she were to get on the highway, she could have a bad accident and kill somebody else, or could be killed or hurt herself. And so I told her, hey, neighbor, your hood's open. You might want to close that. And she was, of course, kind of taken back that I noticed and said something. But as I walked upstairs, it all made sense as to why I was supposed to be there and what I was doing in the driveway at 9:20
Mhm.
in the morning for no reason. And it
Mhm.
was to be able to basically see and help a perfect stranger that I really had no connection with or no reason to be there to help her. But there's a bigger thing in the universe that knows more than we do. And so I just kind of accept that I'm at where I'm at and doing what I'm supposed to be doing, even if it doesn't make sense to me. And I think, Gene, you have you may feel the same way at times, and if you don't, I think it goes the same for you and probably many of us
Mhm.
because we had to go through what we did to be
Yeah,
able to help other people the way that we do now.
Mhm.
absolutely.
So, you know, um, that's
And thank you, Robert, for sharing that.
mhm,
And the
sure.
interesting part is, um, I can envision when you start driving and that all of a sudden that hood comes up, what it could have
Hmm.
done. The woman could have been killed.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely.
of course, she didn't think about it again, and but I can really see, how you see sometimes in a movie
Hmm.
where it's displayed. A
Right.
person comes into your life and saves you doing different things, and you see
Hmm.
the other side where they're totally clueless and not
Right.
aware, but the
Mhm.
audience, the viewers
Hmm.
see it.
Yeah, the
That's
viewer.
how
Yeah,
I just, yes, the
absolutely.
viewers. And that's how I just took that, the story,
Hmm.
which I remember you telling me a long time ago. You were
Right.
telling
When
me
it
the
happened.
story. So, and
Hmm.
obviously you must have felt something like that too, that somehow it was a very important moment that saving it. It
Right.
goes beyond just saying, "Hey, lady, your hood is open."
Yeah.
Otherwise, you wouldn't feel so deeply about it.
Right.
Because I hear it
Right.
out of your voice, and your emotions and everything. No, we
Oh.
just never know. People come into our lives, they come and go, or they
Hmm.
stay, and they're supposed to
Mhm.
make a big difference in our lives,
Mhm.
to
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
to the good or to the bad.
Hmm.
Yep.
And that's just really, really incredible. But
Hmm.
Mhm.
Robert, what do you want to tell your 5-year-old? You still didn't answer the question.
No, I did basically that you've got to go through hell to
Oh,
get
okay.
to heaven
Okay.
Mhm.
is what it's all about. You have to endure wherever you're at and whatever you're doing, it's for a reason, even though it might not make sense. Again, it doesn't matter whether you end up in the hospital half dead and staring death in the face for months on end, or having to go through struggles of learning to walk
Mm,
again, or ending up in the mountains of Connecticut or anywhere in between. Um, we always see things as, oh, this is the worst time of my life. Oh, I ended up here, or I did this and it was a mistake. And the honest truth is there's no mistakes in our lives. And
Mhm.
so, to me at least, I'm always where I'm supposed to be at, even if other people would say, wow, Rob, you really screwed up this, or you didn't do that right. You should be here. You should be a multimillionaire by now. You should be that. And my response always is, if I had, when the internet boom happened in the beginning and I was able to make millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, I'd probably be dead today. I
Mhm.
wouldn't be sitting on this podcast, that's for sure.
mhm,
I'd
Mhm.
be in a whole different place in life, but I probably would have been flying my private jet or helicopter and crashed or something, So that wasn't meant to be then because of for very particular reasons. And
mhm.
again, I wouldn't be in the woods of Connecticut to save some neighbor's life that I don't know about who could have saved somebody else's life that again I don't know, but none of that matters because it's not about me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Thank you for
that's
sharing that.
really what I would say.
Yeah. I think you guys did excellent because I want our listeners to know this was not rehearsed. This was really not rehearsed. So, Jean, thank you so much,
Oh,
and
you're so welcome. Very
um,
welcome.
Robert.
Hmm.
So we may not get a do-over, but we do get today. Let's live like we know what matters, and maybe help someone younger avoid a few of the bums we had to hit. So subscribe and like us, subscribe to our channel, obviously, and like us, love us. Yeah, we deserve love. And
Yeah.
till next time, I'm Marietta Camera, and thank you guys so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Marietta.
Appreciate you too.
Thank you.